Hello and welcome to Sientate y Hablemos. This is El Centro's podcast, and I am Valentina Chavarria, one of your hosts today.
My name is Alex Mejia, and I'm one of the new hosts today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Segovia, and I'll be the second new host today.
We have two amazing new hosts on our new semester, and we're really, really excited to see everybody again. Today we're going to have a very, very cool topic, which is Bad Bunny and his impact on Latin American culture and music. And for this episode, we had an amazing researcher, Daniela Maldonado. She's one of our SCs, and she's sitting in today. And we're very, very excited to go into this.
Yeah, totally. So we can start talking a little bit about Bad Bunny and who he is. So the full name, Bad Bunny is his artist name, but his full name is Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio. He's a Puerto Rican rapper and singer from Vega Baja in Puerto Rico. He was raised in a lower middle class household, pretty, working class, average guy, with his father, and he drove trucks, and his mother taught English. And he has two younger brothers, actually.
Oh, I didn't know that.
His music style is sort of a mix between Latin trap and reggaeton. He kind of pulls from both in his music, which really makes it unique. And right now, he's become really popular.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about him, but I actually kind of don't know anything about him. I'm really bad. I know I'm a really bad Latin American person because I really don't know anything about his music. So you guys are going to be my guides today.
Perfect.
Well, we're more than happy to. Bad Bunny is... anytime I have the opportunity to introduce Bad Bunny to anyone, I do. And then immediately, at least one song is going to be like, oh, yeah, I vibe with this.
Oh, for sure. We all have that one song that we
yeah.
enjoy.
Oh, yeah. You'll have that one song that we're like, I can go to this at any point of the day and be like, yeah, okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about how he rose to fame. I'll talk about the first few years, 2016 through 2017, and then Alex over here is going to talk about the next few years.
Perfect.
All right. So in 2016, Bad Bunny actually was working at a local supermarket in Puerto Rico, Econo, bagging groceries to support his studies at the University of Puerto Rico, Arecibo. He began sharing his music on SoundCloud, and due to the popularity of his music, his song. And due to the popularity of his song Diles, he began receiving calls from producers, which he answered while at work, which is pretty interesting that he was literally recording music and bagging groceries.
This man
That's
was
awesome.
grinding. Yeah.
So really working class guy, down to earth, this wasn't a person that was born into money or anything, or was gifted opportunities. He had to go and chase his goals. Bad Bunny actually caught the attention of producer DJ Luyan, and was signed to hear this music. And then Bad Bunny dropped Soy Peor, which was his first hit in 2016. And then moving on into 2017, in May, Bad Bunny's collaboration with Karol G, Ahora Me Llama, reached number 10 on the Billboard Hot Latin Songs. It's the top 10.
Ooh.
Which is, literally a year after he's actually begins to, pay attention to music and write music. It's
That's awesome.
remarkable that he did that. And was listed as a Latino favorite song of 2017.
Hell
Awesome.
Yep.
So transitioning into 2018. So in 2018, he was featured on Cardi B's I Like It, which kind of fun fact, that was probably my first song I've heard of Bad Bunny. So
No way.
very
Yeah, that makes
first one.
sense, actually. Yeah.
So one of my favorite ones. And then he was featured Mia, which reached number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 on Christmas Eve, which is kind of crazy.
Wow.
Getting Drake as a feature is huge, so that really was a milestone.
That's amazing.
So switching over to 2019, he released Oasis, which along with J Balvin, one of my favorite songs, also from there. La Canción was probably a really good one. He also joined protests against the Puerto Rican governor Ricardo Rosario. And then in 2020, he became the first non-English language act to be in Spotify's most streamed artist of the year with over 8 million streams, which honestly is a huge accomplishment, especially coming from years ago. He was bagging groceries in Puerto Rico, so being
crazy.
one of like the best.
And he rose to fame really fast.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's nothing.
Yeah, it's only a few years.
Yeah.
Some artists take, several years for that to happen. So
Decades almost.
huge. And then in 2021, he released a album that won a Grammy for the Best Latin Pop Album, which is huge. Winning a Grammy in that early in your career is amazing. He also won a lot of other awards for Billboard Latin Music with 10 awards in total, which is wow. In 2022, he was featured in the Vogue magazine for a second time. Which Vogue, if you don't know, Vogue magazine is a pretty well-known magazine with a bunch of artists that are very famous. And he also released his new album, the one that's been on repeat for everyone for the past summer, Un Verano Sin Ti, which debuted on the Billboard 200 and stayed there for 7 non-consecutive weeks. So you're going against like albums like Drake's, DJ Khaled, and a bunch of other artists that dropped the same year. And for him to be at the top, that's kind of really impressive.
It's kind of remarkable, honestly, the way he rose so quickly. But also the fact that like he's released so much music. You know, a lot of people like to talk about these one-hit wonders that kind of rise to fame out of nowhere, but
And then go and fade out.
yeah,
again.
and they fade out. They really
Yeah.
don't have that next song, that really gets people hooked.
Yeah.
But Bad Bunny, one of the things he does is he just puts out so much music, but it's not like every song that he puts out has a purpose. And like he has a goal with that, and he plays around again with that, like we were talking about before. His music is not entirely reggaeton, and it's not entirely like pop. It's a mix, and he does a good job of incorporating both styles of music, and he's one of the pioneers of doing that. And so I really like the fact that he's been able to release so many albums that like talk about different things, and he incorporates different styles of music.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite things. Like he adapts to different types of music. Like he did one with Romeo Santos. That was really great.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like just the ability to adapt to different types of music styles is like amazing. Like not a lot of artists can do that, and so for him to do that every time is awesome, and to have his own uniqueness into it as well.
Right. And most artists just like release one album every year at most. Normally it's like 2 years, and if I'm correct, he released like how many albums? Like 5 albums in 1 year?
I think it was 3 in 1 year, and that was in 2021 when he released 3 of them, which is crazy.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So
There's a lot of hits in those albums too. Like it wasn't like just junk music,
yeah,
That's crazy.
not a lot of filler
And
music.
he collaborates with a lot of artists.
Oh,
like, and
yes.
he likes to collaborate specifically with a lot of Puerto Rican artists,
Oh, yeah.
which is like it helps aid the rise of other Puerto Rican
Right.
reggaetoneros. And like I think of like Jay Cortez, Raúl Alejandro. I mean, there's so many. Like it's kind of it's been huge for a lot of other people's careers too, because they can like link off of Bad Bunny's kind of goal with his music. So I think that's really good. Okay, let's move on to this next topic.
Awesome.
So we can talk a little bit about how Bad Bunny actually influences Latinx culture. So this is something we kind of like we talk about, but we don't really talk about, and I think this is a nice opportunity to actually get into the deep information about Latinx culture and how Bad Bunny connects to that. So first, let's talk about toxic masculinity. Obviously, the elephant in the room. Usually, when we talk about Latin America, right? In most Latin American cultures, men are expected to embrace toxic masculinity, which is a cultural pressure for men to behave in a certain way. This is very common in music, especially in reggaeton, Latin trap. Like you don't really have to search too deep into the lyrics to understand that.
Absolutely.
Like
It is
like,
pretty in your face.
Yeah, like
it's kind of
early,
like a requirement
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
like early trap and reggaeton. Like you can absolutely see it. And
Yeah.
like now it's evolving to something a little totally different with the help of Bad Bunny. So like using his platform to actually change the music industry, huge. So
No, I completely agree, and he definitely has. Unlike most música urbana, Bad Bunny demonstrates the opposite. of the machismo fueled mentality. He does this by being comfortable in embracing things that society would consider feminine, such as painting his nails, dressing in drag, and wearing dresses and skirts, kind of like, you know, moving away from this ultra masculine, like machista, you know, style,
That's
which I
great.
think is
Mhm.
part of his like his whole goal, right?
Yeah.
He's influenced Latinx communities by demonstrating that men don't have to conform to social norms that exist in Latin culture for really generations.
Absolutely.
And I think he's part of that movement of kind of changing the whole conversation around.
So you can really
toxic
see how much
masculinity.
how aware he is of his own platform and his power with said platform. So really,
Yeah.
really awesome that he's doing all this.
Yeah, and I totally appreciate him doing that, just because most artists, they don't really use their platform for good. They just want to rise to fame. But Bad Bunny, in his case, he's tackling many, topics that range from, toxic masculinity to other topics, and he's doing very well in tackling each one of them and putting his own persona out there, not really hiding anything. There's one time I heard that he doesn't change for anyone. He stays true to himself, and that's something I really admire from him, and I think that's what makes his music stay really relevant during this time, that he doesn't change for any artist or anything. Like he loves to be himself and to embrace himself, that being, painting his nails or dressing in drag, for like when he dressed in drag or like in different outfits for like Vogue magazine or stuff like that. Like he stayed true to himself, and that's why I really appreciate that.
So moving on to this next part, which is talking about sexuality. So obviously, apart from breaking gender norms, Bad Bunny has also been really vocal about his sexuality. While performing, he's kissed both men, women, and he's stated that his sexuality does not define him. He's open about his sexuality having like a fluidity. And once again, he shows what sets him apart from other reggaetoneros. His openness about his sexuality is significant. For many Latino men exploring their sexuality, that would have been frowned upon by their culture. When we talk about like artists like Bad Bunny, we're usually talking about people who are kind of in the spotlight all the time, and like
Right.
whatever they say has an impact.
Yeah.
And so since like for so many generations we have like this machista, very like cis view about like the way the world works, really,
Right.
that's also reflected in the music. And so I think that Bad Bunny has been good for that, because he is working on changing that conversation and allowing people basically say like, I can be different from what is whatever the social norm is. And that definitely shows in his views about his sexuality, and it allows, like I just said, Latino men to explore that.
Right. And in a type of music that is like a genre of music that is very, very heteronormative most of the time, like reggaeton always like, yeah, that's like the norm in reggaeton. So it's really, really interesting. I didn't know that from him. I actually don't know much about him.
Yeah, and
that's
I
really
mean,
cool.
You're learning, Valentina. You will learn. You will
I'll
learn with
learn.
both of us.
Oh yes,
I
we'll
will.
educate and we'll inform you about Bad Bunny, because he is a huge topic.
As you should.
But I do enjoy being able to witness it in real time, how it's happening. When I first listened to him, it was like awesome, but then like I got into his more music and his lyrics. I'm a big lyric person, so like when I listen to music, I listen to the lyrics, and so seeing the evolution and seeing that it's happening right in front of us and helping generations of people to like express and embrace themselves and never hide behind any kind of wall, and breaking those social norms that you can't express yourself. No, that's not the case. I feel like you should, and Bad Bunny's allowing that to happen, and I love that for him. So it's huge eye-opening right now, and I'm loving it for the generation right now.
It's very awesome. What else can you tell me about him? I want to learn more now.
So, Bad Bunny actually has other talents, surprisingly, but beyond just music. So his popularity is also, although it's risen from his music, he has also wrestled. He's been a wrestler.
He has
before.
wrestled?
Yeah, at the 2021 Royal Rumble, he was in that. Isn't that crazy?
Wait. I didn't know.
You know, it's funny because usually, I don't know why, this is probably an incorrect stereotype that I have, but I usually think of people who wrestle to be these big, like,
Yeah.
jacked
yeah.
people. And I'm not saying Bad Bunny is, like, lanky or anything, but, like, he's
He
not
doesn't
all
have the
that,
build.
you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, showing that he can do other things as well. He has also ventured into acting. I'm sure a lot of people have seen or heard about that. He's been featured in many movies and TV shows now, such as F9, American Soul, Bullet Train, The Lost City, and he's worked alongside Brad Pitt and Narcos in Mexico too.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I first saw him in Narcos Mexico, I was like, "Is that Bad Bunny? Like, that can't." And
It
then
can't be
Wait,
him.
that's
And
wild.
it's actually him.
Yeah.
No
So
way.
I was like, "That's amazing." Like,
Yeah, he's a talented dude. He's a talented dude. He can do everything. So we can move on also to influence on social and political issues.
perfect.
Yeah,
So.
that matters.
So in 2019, Bad Bunny joined protests against Puerto Rico Governor Ricardo Rosario to resign and write a song. And he wrote a song to voice the goals and views of the movement. He was also involved with attracted protesters from the U.S. and movement was successful with the step down of Rosario. So
And like here it comes again, like the same topic of like he knows how much power music has, and he has, and because people really like people know him, people love him, and so it's really really cool that he's using his platform.
Leading up to the 2020 election, Bad Bunny encouraged Puerto Rican youth to register to vote, using his platform to share important information as to why voting matters. So he's actually lent his music to President Joe Biden as a way of endorsing him during the presidential campaign to motivate Puerto Rican communities in Florida and in Pennsylvania. Purple states, that usually very competitive, and a lot of people don't realize that their vote matters in those situations, but it
Right.
really, really does. I think he really wants to encourage people to vote and get out there. And I think that, artists doing that is something that's new. It's not really something that people talk about in music. So it's interesting that he's doing that compared to a lot of people who don't.
So he also was in the support of the Black Lives Movement. And so, in 2020, in racism worse than COVID and black men with a gun, that's a criminal. But if he's white, then they say that's a hobby. That's a lyric from one of his songs. So
Wow.
being able to incorporate these lyrics into these songs, and they become mainstream. People listen to these and they're like, okay, that's huge. And I'm really happy that he is fighting for the fight against racism, because that's a huge issue going around in America, and something that should be talked about even more. And so he has done a bunch of other things. I don't know, Brian, you find anything else?
Yeah. So actually, Bad Bunny actually called attention to the murder of a transgender woman in Puerto Rico named Alexa. When performing on Jimmy Fallon, he wore a shirt that translated, "They killed Alexa, not a man in a skirt." And I think that really, sometimes you don't even have to say it. It's like the way that you
Yeah.
act, the way that you are, and what you're wearing. And so, that it kind of sends the message that, we need to learn to accept transgender people into the community much more, and we need to stop, this rhetoric that we have that's very very heteronormative, very cis, and really change the conversation about that. And so he definitely has been working on that, and he comes up with creative ways, like I said, comes up with
Yeah.
creative ways
Yeah.
to show that, and not coming off in a way that's performative or anything. And I think that that's pretty important, because there's a lot of artists that do act pretty performative out there.
Yeah.
And you can kind of tell when people are creative about it that they're not being performative, because they're genuinely trying to get that point across. And
normally creativity comes from the heart, I think, and so
Absolutely.
once you have something out there that's creative and it's speaking about something that you really care about, it hits harder. So really awesome that he's doing all this.
do you have anything else you would like to comment about, Alex?
Personally, just overall, he just seems to be using his platform for good, and I totally appreciate that, and I think a lot of generations and youth are appreciating that as well. Stuff that's happening in Puerto Rico, things happening here in the States and in the United States, his influence on presidential elections, and just allowing himself and his music to cause a ripple effect everywhere, and that's something I feel like should be really praised, and I think he's finally getting the praise he really deserves now. So yeah.
Right now after Hurricane Fiona, Bad Bunny released a music video called El Apagón, and
yeah, I've heard about this.
yeah, it's really long, but the music video basically talks about the hurricane and the whole context of Puerto Rican history, if I'm not wrong, and so I think the Puerto Rican image in the U.S. is very misconstrued. A lot of people don't even know Puerto Rico is part of the United States, and that we they're the people in Puerto Rico are also U.S. citizens, and they don't know the struggles of Puerto Rican people throughout history. And the struggles that they've had as islanders and connecting to the U.S.
Right, and we talked about this in a previous episode last year, about the secret history of Puerto Rico, and how many things are ignored in the U.S. about their history, and most people don't know, but their flag was illegal for some time as well. There's a ton of things that the U.S. ignores about Puerto Rico.
Yeah, and so I think Bad Bunny really does a good job of highlighting history and talking about it, because since we're not learning about it in history books, we don't learn about it in school here.
Of course.
I think it's appropriate that he uses music and his creativity to teach history and to talk about Puerto Rico and the people that live there. There's 3 million Americans that we don't accept as Americans, and we don't give the same rights to. Those are conversations that need to be had, and I think that that creates a movement where at least Puerto Ricans can be more vocal now about who they are, and people can understand them.
Right.
Yeah. In you were talking about the last podcast episode, so the other day I was listening to it, and there was a quote in there. You guys said it was the United States views Puerto Ricans as second-class citizens, which is kind of crazy. They are, Puerto Ricans, and Puerto Rico is part of the United States, but the United States doesn't really, view it as like that. And that's, unfortunate. And I feel having a huge artist like this blow up from Puerto Rico and showing all these, social issues that's happening there, amazing, just huge.
That's right.
The next thing that I'll mention is that San Diego State University actually now offers a class about Bad Bunny, now starting in 2023, to learn about his impact on Latin culture.
That's awesome.
Which just goes to show you that people in academia recognizing the movement and the snowball effect that Bad Bunny is having in the culture generally speaking, just beyond the music. And that's just the beginning. If one university starts to offer classes on this, you don't know what's going to happen next.
Right.
So.
And this opens the door to so many conversations
Absolutely.
about different topics.
Yeah, this could cause a ripple effect, and they learn about more stuff that's happening in Puerto Rico, the hidden history behind that. And I would take the class. I hope they.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm
sure a lot of people will. Yeah.
I think you guys could dictate the class, actually.
We should. Oh my God, we have so much information now. We could low key do that.
Exactly.
We can be
just
professors.
email.
Oh my God, Professor. Oh, Dr. Alex. Oh my God.
Dr. Brian.
Yeah. No.
And you have
I don't want
PhDs
that.
in
I don't wanna hear that.
Bad Bunny.
In Bad Bunny.
Imagine that. That'd be
Majoring?
awesome.
Bro,
Oh,
what?
no.
Okay, anyway, we're getting sidetracked. Anyway. Yeah. What else is there to talk about? We can cut this out.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think we can wrap it up. We're at 25 here, and we had a little bit more. So I think let's just wrap it up.
Wonderful. Okay, so I think that concludes our conversation about Bad Bunny's impact Obviously, you can get so much deeper into this, but this just gives any listeners like an outlook on like who Bad Bunny is, what he's done, and how he's impacted Latinx culture. So,
I just want a quick question, Brian. What's your favorite song from Bad Bunny? If you could pick one.
oh my God, that's so difficult.
Or album, either or.
Okay, I really do like Un Verano Sin Ti.
Okay.
The song that I've been listening to so much right now, Tarot, is so good.
Valid answer.
It is like I'm bumping that song all the time in my car.
Okay.
But
Amazing.
my God. Yo hago lo que me da la gana, I think is my favorite album.
Okay.
I can't say one song. I mean, like,
Okay. No, that's
there's
hard. No, I
too
get
many. Like, I think like it's every song is unique in its own way,
that. Mhm.
and so like I'll listen to one song for a different purpose.
Oh, so it just depends on the mood you're in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
no.
if I'm in like really upbeat mood, like there are certain songs that can address that, but there are other
Okay.
songs that are like more like chill. I'm vibing on my
Mhm.
couch kind of thing. So-
Okay. Perfect. Nice.
That's awesome. How about you, Alex?
Ooh.
What's your
That's my own
favorite song?
question. Okay, so I love Un Verano Sin Ti. That was
Mm.
probably my favorite album. And I'm gonna say Otro Atardecer. I love that song.
It's a great song, actually.
I don't know, it's just something about it just really catches my ear. But like Brian said, like it depends on the mood. If I'm
Right.
like upbeat, then I
Yeah.
gotta go for his upbeat songs. Moscow Mule was awesome.
Oh, Moscow Mule is so
Right,
I've
that's
been
what
I've
I'm
been
saying.
getting back into that song because at first that was probably one of my lesser liked songs of the album.
But yeah, so some Bad Bunny songs, me personally, they at first listen, I don't really vibe with them, but later on they do grow on me, and that says a lot for his music. But anyway, since me and Brian answered the question of like what's our favorite Bad Bunny song, let's switch it over to Valentina. What about you? What do you consider your favorite Bad Bunny song?
Well, as I said before, I don't think I've really like sat down and listened to Bad Bunny, so I don't really have a favorite song right now. But I will go home and listen to Bad Bunny now because I am interested after this conversation.
Well, thank you, and I hope the audience also feels the same way after this episode. But we're going to start wrapping it up, and I want to give a special thank you to Valentina and Brian, and also to our researcher, Daniela, for helping us with this podcast as well. So thank you so much, and have a great weekend, and stay safe.
Échale ganas.